are on guest number 2 of our speaker series here for the Woman to Woman Conference. And I am so excited to introduce you to Melissa. She is someone that came on my radar months back, and I just knew like her presence and just the way she carried herself and the things that she does and her marketing and all the things like people needed to hear from her. So I'm so excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm looking, actually, I noticed this before we hit record, but you're in your tank top and here I am in my like long sleeve sweatshirt. It's like 90 degrees here, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, and I just kicked my slippers off a few minutes ago before I jumped in my office, but I was walking around in slippers because like air conditioning makes me cold. Like I don't like a lot of air conditioning, which is
Oh my
weird.
gosh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and like I said, I'm trying to get some shower steamers to dry. So I have my air conditioning set on 68. So I mean, it's like the Arctic in
Really
here. So
cold. Yeah. Yeah.
oh my gosh. Well, anyway, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and your family, just anything you really want us to know.
Yeah. So I've been married to Scott for 15 years this summer. And then we have 2 girls, ages 12 and 9. And I think that those ages are just the best. It's like the sweet spot of parenting so far. So they are home with us for the first time this summer, which has been an adventure, and a little bit of a learning curve because they're a little too old for daycare and that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's been a big adjustment for us this summer. So very busy with their activities, doing all that. And then I own 2 businesses. So my husband and I together own Severance Brewing Company, which is located in downtown Sioux Falls, right by Falls Park. So he's the brewer, runs all the day-to-day stuff. And I, of course, naturally fall into helping with marketing and design for the company. And then also just kind of being his sounding board for the business decisions and stuff. And there's a lot of them with what comes with a brewery and having a team and making all those decisions. And then my main business, or like my primary full-time job, is Branch Creative, which is started out just as like a freelancing side gig while I was working full-time way back in 2009. So this summer, actually July here, is my anniversary month, 14 years since I started my business, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it was just on the side. And as my family grew, my business grew. And I realized when Avery was like 9 months old that I kind of always knew, in your gut, like kind of what you want to do as a mom, like when you become a mom and stuff. And I was like, I just always knew I did not want to work full time.
Yeah.
I wanted to work. I love what I do, but working full time, paying someone to watch my daughter for more hours than I could see her in a day just really stunk. So I eventually got to get a full-time job, or a part-time job, working for a digital marketing agency for a couple of years. And then I kind of built my business on the side. Luckily, that part-time job was really supportive of my business because they focused on the digital side.
Yeah.
And I focused a lot more on like the print and logo design and like branding side.
Yeah.
So they would actually refer clients to me like back and forth because we kind of had 2 different avenues, in the same kind of realm, but kind of 2 different specialties.
Yeah.
So they were super supportive. And then when I had Addie, our youngest, I was able to go full-time from home, which I thought was going to be like the dream situation, to be full-time home with an almost 3-year-old and a newborn. And that was a very rude awakening, like the first day that this is not sunshine and rainbows. I'm going to go as like perfectly as I had planned. So,
Oh my gosh, I love it.
yeah. So I very quickly learned that like I need help, and that I could still work from home and be a really present mom, but it's okay to maybe like get a little bit of like preschool time for my 3-year-old, or have my sister come help with the newborn, or, whatever. So, we made it work, but it was definitely a really like, you kind of just went day to day. I would say it wasn't like, I like to be planned out and organized, and I had to really just kind of let some things go to make it work, but so worth it. And then, so I've been on my own now for 9 years, having my own thing, and built it up to where it is my full-time job, which has been amazing.
Oh, that's so awesome. And to to start that as a mom of a newborn and, or newborn and a 3-year-old is no easy
No.
task. Like I did something very similar. Like I had my youngest I guess she's my middle child now. She was my youngest at the time, was 9 months old, and they were only 16 months apart. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they were, basically almost Irish twins, but not quite.
Yeah.
And I remember buying my website domain and being like, this is it. This is my ticket out of teaching. Here we go. There's no way this is failing because this is what I want. And then I found really quickly that our kids still went to daycare even after I left teaching. I mean, we had somebody come into our house for a while. And then when she moved on and was no longer available, then we ended up taking them to daycare so they could do the preschool daycare thing. And then all of a sudden in December, our daycare permanently closed on us, and all the other daycares in the area were full. And so then it was like completely 180 to us. So, my husband farms and I'm trying to do, running 2 businesses at home. And yeah, my kids have been home the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. And I
So I
think,
get it. I'm sympathizing.
yeah.
Like as you're talking about that, I'm just like, yes, people don't understand how hard that
Yeah.
really is. And even in my mind, I was like, it'll be fine. School will start up again. But this summer has rocked my world.
Yeah. It's been crazy. And I think going into it, like my husband, I think it was my husband that had like this like come to Jesus moment with me where he was like, okay, you're being really hard on yourself because you're
Yes.
not a stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
You are a work from home mom. Like, and I think that I was trying to be the stay-at-home mom and still try to run a business and grow my business. So I
Yeah.
think having that mindset shift and finally having someone tell me like there's a difference. Both are equally wonderful, but there's a difference. And you need to kind of change your expectations based on what you actually are. So
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
100%. Because first off, I don't think that I could be a 100% stay-at-home mom. There's no way. I I mean, I love doing things with my kids and I love the
Mhm.
activities and stuff, but I like being able to get up, have a slow morning with them, do some sort of activity with them, and then they're ready to go do their own thing, and then I can
Yeah.
get work done in the afternoon. And that just
Yeah.
is what works for us. I think
Yeah.
I would be bored, but I also am not like a runner type of mom where I'm like, let's go, go, go. We'll
Yeah.
go to the pool every day and we'll do this and we're going to do all these fun things. That's just not me. And I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. I try to do a little bit of that in the summertime here, but yeah, it's I like having this thing that's mine
Yes.
and I'm passionate. I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. Like I get to just like hop into my office and sit down at the computer and do something I love. So yeah, so it's just been a real blessing.
Oh,
Yeah. And then of course, even in these last 9 years, like even my business itself has, grown, like evolved in different ways. And a few years ago, well, it was like kind of the post-pandemic thing. Like,
yeah.
I, at one point, if you had asked me in December of 2019, like what my goal was for my business, it was, I wanted the brick and mortar. I wanted to grow a team. Because at the time I had probably 3 or 4 contracted designers working with me, cranking out work. And I had this vision of like, what if I had this like really cute studio, maybe downtown, and then moms or new designers even can come in with their computer. They're still contractors, but we'd have this like cool space they could come work and meet clients there and whatever. And it sounded really cool at the time, and then COVID hit and I was like, I really love working from home. Like I'm so glad I was set up for this and I don't
Yes.
have to worry about a physical space. um
You were
and
kind
then
of game though
and
on
then
that. Like you were
what
already used to
I
doing
would
this.
oh
Like
yeah.
most of us, that was about the time that we transitioned, or at least for me
Yeah.
and a lot of my business besties, that was about the time that that was like the tipping point for us. We were on the
Sure.
verge of going full time, and then it was like, oh, okay, here you go.
Well, yeah, yeah, it's happening.
Throw
Whether
you
you want
in, baptize
yeah,
you by fire.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, there was no change for me. I mean, and most of my clients stayed pretty much the same too, which was such a blessing. So I stayed busy and I just like through that time though, there were some changes where like one of my clients, like one of my biggest clients hired my position internally
Oh,
and didn't need me anymore. And it was just kind
yes.
of that natural progression, grow it into something where you can hire it full time. Um, same thing happened with another one of my biggest clients. They hired a marketing person, didn't need me as much. And then my go-to like contracted designer, I was giving her 20, 25 hours of work a week. She took a full-time job for an agency. And I was just like, what is going on? Like, you kind of like feel like everything's just kind of being taken away. Yes, you can. Okay. That's my next. Bye, honey. I'm on the call. Love you. She was asking if she could have a popsicle.
Have all the
True summer. Yeah, we're being real here. True summer. Anyway, so that all happened. At the same time, I was going through this coaching program, learning and revamping my whole process about branding. And through that process, I just decided that like, okay, I think that the brick and mortar thing was ego thing. Like I was like, I think that I wanted it because I wanted to prove to everybody that I could have this successful business and have something physical to show for it. So then after going through this whole branding process thing, I restructured my business to be a brand strategy focused studio. And I had pared it down to just one contracted designer is all. And that was like the best thing I ever could have done for my business. Like revenue wise, time wise, the level of depth I get to go into with clients in branding because I own Severance. I think it gives me a unique perspective, like being on both sides of the table, like as the designer, but also as the business owner. And so like to sit down in the strategy process and like have these really deep conversations about their story and their values and like who their audience is and like all those things and just getting to the nitty gritty I found like I love that part. And that has nothing to do with design. You can do all that really cool stuff and then move into design. So that's been really, really fun for my business in the last couple of years.
Well, and the fact that you're such an expert, I feel like that's what sets you apart too, is that's the part that you really, really enjoy, because that's the part that most business owners, especially if they're just starting it out or getting going, they like go through the motions of doing it, but they don't deep dive into it. And even I've worked with a couple people, throughout the years of my business where they ask questions, but even the questions they asked, I found out weren't deep enough or weren't the right questions to really get to know. And then you can't do that design aspect until you know this, because it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just kind of seeing what sticks with your audience and hoping whatever you put out there works. But when you do all of that really nitty gritty stuff at the beginning, that's when you can put something out and be confident in it and know like this is actually targeted to my ideal client.
Yeah, really good stuff. It's like asking like, but why? And like just really getting down into the weeds. I think that the designs are better. The client is just set up so much better for success. And they feel so much more confident. They're like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I just spewed all this random information at you and you came back at me with this like 30-page beautiful presentation with all of my things, it's just, it's just really fun to like bring it all together like that. So
all the stuff that business owners really like have, A, they're not qualified for it unless they went to school for marketing, and B, don't really want to do anyway.
Right. It's not their, and it's not their area of expertise. It's like I hire an accountant to do that, my books, and I hire a lawyer to do that. And a lot of people think they can do design or think they can do branding, and they can, I don't know, they can know their story. They might have a really good message and know their audience, but I think to tie it all together, it really helps to work with someone who knows those things. So
Yes. Oh, absolutely. What is something that you suggest for business owners that don't have that in place yet, that they're listening and they're like, man, they're onto something. Maybe I should pause and work on this. What's something like where should they start when they start this whole process, or if they're going to go back and revamp what they've already done?
Well, definitely reach out. No,
yeah, exactly. Here's
I'm gonna say reach out to someone, but
in the show notes.
But no, I think there's so many good resources online these days too. I mean, find some podcasts, find some YouTube videos. Like if you don't have the time, because it is an investment of time, and then also an investment of resources to do it right and to do it well. so if you don't have that, like see what is out there online even to educate yourself and kind of walk you through it, or buy a book if you like to read. But um I think that would be a great place to start just to get a better
Yeah.
understanding of it. I can't remember his name, Story Brand.
Yes. I
Miller, Don Miller.
yes, Don. He
Don
might be a
Miller's.
genius. I mean, let's go there.
Yeah, yeah.
I've read that book like 4 times, and every time I
Yes.
read it, I'm like, did I actually read this the last time? Like it's like I to pick up on all new things in it.
Yeah. I think his book is called like Building a Story Brand. And so
Yes.
there's books like that out there that like it might not get you from A to Z, but it's going to get you a really good foundational understanding of like when you're talking to your audience, like how are you positioning them as the hero in your story? Or like, are you actually talking to them, or are you just spewing out information to everybody? Like speak to everyone, you speak to no one, that
Yes.
they
Yes.
say, so I think that there's resources out there that could really help you get started,
Yes.
or go to events, like educational events, like Woman to Woman has, that educational
Yes.
aspect that you can pick up on some things.
Exactly. And one of the things that I really started to do was paying attention to how other people were doing it, like
Mhm.
really diving in and dissecting, like with Maddie, she does that with Taylor Swift so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even like Jenna Kutcher or Amy
Yeah.
Porterfield, or there's a guy that I love watching how he does things. His name's Colin Boyd, and he teaches you to speak from stage and tell your story and
Mhm.
do that kind of thing. But just even watching how he markets himself and tells his stories and things, and I listen to his podcast constantly. But I just really started paying attention to what other people are doing. Like the people that I was automatically drawn to, they are doing something. It's their marketing,
Mm.
it's how they're doing it, it's how they're positioning themselves. And just really paying attention to that was kind of a turning point for me too, I feel like.
Right. Right. For sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, I cannot think of his name. And I sometimes have the books just like laying around on my floor, but of course I have them cleaned up currently because there's enough other things out like shower steamers and vacation
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah. Shark Severance.
But it's called like building super fans or something, of the sort. Like how do you get people? And he talks about his wife's obsession with the Backstreet Boys, which is more my style than Taylor Swift. Like love her dearly, but I'm definitely not like a true Swiftie by any means. But
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys, on the other hand, like when they came to Sioux Falls, I was all about it. I was like first in
Oh,
line for tickets
funny.
on Ticketmaster, like made sure I had them. Like, he talks about why women our age are still just so obsessed with the Backstreet Boys even now. Like how are they still so successful and can sell out world tours?
Yeah.
And it was the story they told us when we were teens. Their songs were written in a way to draw us in and
Mhm.
make us relate to them. And it was like
Yeah.
they were speaking to us, which that's what they were doing. And it was a whole game plan. It wasn't
Yeah.
just they wrote these songs that were on their heart. Like there was an entire strategic marketing plan behind
Oh,
what made
for
us all fall in love
sure.
with them, or NSYNC, or insert any,
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's like nostalgic. So
yes, yeah, exactly. Now it's just
yeah.
like, oh, it takes me back to my
Yeah. I just
first
saw
CD I ever owned or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Mattel is onto this too. I was just reading an article this morning actually that popped up, that with the Barbie movie coming out, it sounds like there are plans to do more Mattel movies like
Okay.
Polly Pocket and like some of those others that might be coming out, which I was like, oh, they're totally onto the nostalgia thing here.
Well, and have you seen, I can't even think of her name, but the actress that's playing Barbie in that movie,
Yeah.
every time she's seen in public, her outfits are
Yep.
like replicas of ones that like Barbie wore in 1995 or
The vintage
1998,
dresses.
like the
Yeah.
vintage. Well, that
Well,
makes
not
me
vintage. No, the one I saw was vintage, like one of
yes.
the original dresses. But yes, I know
Yes,
the
but
not
even
vintage.
that is just building their brand. Or I just read a story about the designer who designed the Barbie Malibu dream house for the
Yeah,
movie and stuff. And it looks just like the dream house that my kids have in the basement.
yeah,
I'm like, she was amazing. She's on point. Exactly. Like it looks like the real house Barbie would live in. Like
yeah,
I'm just so impressed. But the hype, I had zero interest in it when somebody first told me, did you hear they're making a Barbie movie? And now in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, kind of excited for this movie to come out.
yeah. I just reserved tickets this morning for my sisters and I to go. We're all wearing Barbie t-shirts and like
Yes.
Barbie earrings, and I plan to have pink nails.
I'm here for it 100%.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm okay between the Taylor Swift concert that Maddie's going to and the Barbie movie that you're going to. I need pictures of all the things. We're going to share them
yeah.
out on all the social media platforms because
Sounds good.
I'm here for this. Like, come to the conference, yes, but no, I'm really just here to be like a fly on the wall in all of the exciting things that
Yeah,
everybody's doing.
yeah, yeah. It should be a good time.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I just keep thinking back to like the branding, and obviously Mattel and Barbie, or these people have big budgets to do these type of things. So what do you suggest for people to start with, as if they don't have a huge budget, they're just starting out, or they're, growing as quickly as they can, but don't have a ton of capital to invest into their marketing? What's something that
Yeah.
they could really focus on?
Um, really pay attention to tracking, because if you have limited resources, you don't want to be like spending a ton on like Facebook ads if it's getting you like zero return on ad spend, right?
Yes.
But if you show up to like a networking meeting and all of a sudden you have all these leads and you're having coffee with people and you're generating business, like, well, that costs you a cup of coffee and not $100 in Facebook ads, like, so I think if you're just starting out, like, try a lot of different things,
Yes.
but track it. So that way you can put your effort and your resources to, where it's actually, generating the most business and growth for you. That would be my biggest piece of advice. But also to, check out the resources that are like around you. Like, I know Sioux Falls has like Startup Sioux Falls, and they have
Yes.
all these awesome programs that can help you with some of these things and getting off the ground, and like with marketing efforts and educational, our workshops to go to and stuff. So those are all like really great types of resources.
Yes, I love that. Honestly, so one of the things, I started a product-based business back last fall. It was like kind of on a whim, but not really. I mean, like some of the pieces were in place, but not a lot of them.
Sure.
And what I found was that the more events I showed up to,
Mhm.
the more my sales took off.
For
And
sure.
it I've done Facebook ads, I've done those type of things, but that's an anxiety inducing for me. Showing up and just like being present with people,
Yeah.
way more comfortable doing that. But like you said, you have to track where you're at and what's getting you those leads
Mhm.
and bringing in those orders or those connections, because there are some events that I've shown up to where it was like, that was not worth my gas money or my time to
Yeah.
sit there, because
Yeah.
it just wasn't. But then there are other things where you walk away and you almost can feel it when something's going right. And when you have that
Yeah.
really like exhilarating feeling, like that's your sign to track it, because that's not a
Yeah.
typical thing that people like to do, like sit down and do the data driven pieces. But you absolutely have to do it, because how
Yeah.
else do you know how you're spending your money, or where your time, time is money.
Right.
And when you're spending a bunch of time doing things that aren't producing, and I talk about income producing activities a lot, and most people think it's like, I have to post on social media every single day, and I need to do a reel, and I need to do this and that. And honestly, it turns out to just be busy work. And if they'd spent that hour and a half out in the community making connections with people, it probably would have generated 3 times what that
Oh yeah. 100%.
worth of posts that you just spent hours upon hours creating.
Yeah. And it's totally dependent on the business.
Yes.
But I have found, like, I'm a service-based business, and I found that, so I joined a networking group handful of years ago, and that completely transformed my business. Like, being there every week, standing up and talking about my business every single week, and sharing, like, you have to share like what you are asking for that week. So I
Yeah.
had to every week think like, okay, I need to come up with like, or have a good idea of like, okay, what is my business needing this week in terms of like a referral or a connection, or what do I need for support for my business that week? And telling about what I do very succinctly in front of people. And that just from a growth perspective was amazing. But the connections I made, like, and it's like they connect you with one person, that person connects you with the next person. And so like my business just exploded that year. So I did that for a few years, and then I started, I left that group, and now I'm in like SME Sioux Falls
Mhm.
and making connections there. I got onto an event committee there because I knew that like just going to the meetings isn't good enough. I need to get on a committee so I can make all these connections, and I'm starting to gain clients from it. And that really, like, you can't go into it with the intent of like, oh, I'm going to get to know you because I want the business. It's got to be
Right.
like, I want to get to know you because maybe, we can have this really cool relationship, and I can provide you with connections, and then maybe you can provide me with connections, and everybody wins. Um, so yeah, that's just been like so huge for my business. And honestly, I only have a social media presence so that when people meet me and decide they maybe want to work with me, if they go look at Facebook, it
Yeah.
looks like I'm actually like a legit business.
Yes.
So I have a social media person who I adore, and she helps me with like planning out content, and I obviously provide like the graphics and imagery, and then she schedules it all out for me, which is amazing. But I'm like 3 posts a week is all I need so that it looks
Yes.
like active. And I can share content. Like I share about branding. I'll jump on in stories a lot, like, and just share. That's where I kind of show up randomly and share
Yeah.
random or personal things or behind the scenes things. But yeah, so it's just like, it just really depends. Like I remember that day, however many years ago, when Instagram shut down and people were losing their minds and like, oh
Yes.
my God, like that's the end of my business and da da da. And it was just like, you put way too many eggs in one basket. Like Instagram shut down for me, and I was like, good, one less thing to worry about.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, it's like, oh gosh. But no, and social media can be, it just depends on the business. And maybe social media is where it's at for your business. And then, yeah,
Right.
by all means, like then you should invest in that as your strategy. Cause you can, like, I have seen businesses do really well and get a really good return on like ad spend and stuff there. Through
Yeah.
Facebook ads and reels and stuff. It just really depends, and really, really paying attention to where your audience is at, and where they're going to be open to receiving your information and acting
Right.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what I found is even just as a coach and, life coach and that kind of thing, a lot of my clients, I mean, a few have come from, all over, but we've either connected in a Facebook group or we've connected
Mhm.
in a real life situation, or, and then they follow
Yeah.
along with the Instagram journey. It's not necessarily like they found me on Instagram and then they were like, I need to buy from you,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
this, like that slow burn of a relationship,
It
and
is.
I'm even like that with products. Sometimes I will follow people for a year or more before I'm like, okay, yeah, I actually need what you're selling now,
Yeah.
and it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with them or their marketing or their anything. It's just the person, like, it's, a personal thing more than
Right.
what they're doing wrong thing. And so, yeah, I get it because I don't know. I'm a little over social media, and I think I just in my mind just claim that my ideal client is too, or my ideal customer
Yeah.
isn't just hanging out on Instagram anymore like we used to.
Yeah. And maybe not. I question that too. I'm like, is it my age? And probably a little bit of it
Yeah.
is my age, but also I'm just like, I just don't have time for this. Like it just feels overwhelming. And that's why I have help with that now too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and I know that in tracking my leads over the last like 15 years, I just know like that's not where I get my people. I get my people from connections and referrals and like
Yeah.
building real relationships. Because it is a big, investing in a brand it's a very personal thing. And
It
so
is.
you really want to go into the relationship with this mutual trust that like this person's going to really get you and be able to do what you need them to do for your business. So,
Yes. No, I
yeah.
completely agree. And that's kind of like the coaching business in a nutshell too. Like I've hired
Yeah, for
coaches
sure.
online that I've never met before. Actually, all but one coach that I've hired, I've never met in real life before. But it was kind of like that gut feeling, but I also wanted to make sure that we shared the same values and we had these same things. And I feel like that's what people need to do when they're looking for somebody to help them with their brand is you don't necessarily have to share all the same values and all the same things. That person needs to understand your values and understand your story and where you're coming from and be open to, being able to decipher between what their values and views are versus your businesses. And I've worked with people before that when I wanted to put that I was a Christian life coach in my bio, they were like, no, that it will ruin you. And I'm like, but that's what I am. Like, that's the people I want to work with. They're like, you're closing off an entire segment of people that might hire you. And I was like, or maybe people will actually come to me because they're looking for somebody who shares those values, and it's just all in who you are as a brand and having those right people. And so I totally understand that on like a real deal.
Yeah, no, that's great that you can differentiate yourself that way and niche down, and then it just makes it really clear when you're talking to people about what you do and who you don't come out and say my ideal client is, but when you're speaking in your posts and stuff, it can be very in your messaging and your positioning of things.
Exactly.
You can make it very clear who you're talking to. So.
Yeah. Well, and even when I have a client that is from the West Coast, or she's a former client now, but when I started doing life coaching with her and stuff, she was like, I just don't really know what I believe, honestly. And it just came up in conversation. Like, it's not something that I talk about in every call with people or anything like that, but it's just like if you have questions about it, or if you want that to be a really big part of your journey, like I can help you with that piece of it. I'm not going to necessarily tell you to manifest all the things and, like praise the universe or coaches might tell you to, you just never know. But it was probably like 6 months later, she started coming back and just asking me like, so how did you, move forward in your faith journey? And how did you come to decide like this is what you really believed and stuff, and it was not anything we had ever really talked about or anything, but just different things I'd shared in my stories or, like a Bible verse here or there. Like she was just starting to pick up on that I was a safe person that she could come and ask these questions to and not feel dumb about asking them. And that's all I want from people is for them to know that like, you can come ask me whatever. You can ask me about who knows what and I'll answer.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I have enjoyed having you on today. This has been amazing. I'm so excited for people to come to the conference and get to hear you speak and just learn even more. But is there anything that you are like, I need to tell the world this or the, few hundred listeners that we have weekly? Before we end that if you don't say it now, you'll regret it later.
I don't think I have any major things to say at the moment. I'm just really excited to come and share. We'll be talking about branding. Like we kind of talked about getting into branding. So business branding essentials is like, I think what I named my talk. So we're going to just like give you some really good, things to walk away with to start building a really solid brand. So I'm really excited to be there. I'm really excited to hear from the other speakers. I think it's going to be a really awesome event. So, and I'm just so excited and honored that I get to be a part of it.
Oh, well, we are so excited that you are going to be a part of it. Yes, it is one of those things where when I started looking for speakers for this year, last year it was the inaugural conference, and so I just went to who I knew. And so like Carla Santi and Rebecca Scott, I had previous relationships with them that dated back like middle school and college years, like used to babysit their kids or she was my counselor, like I just found people that way that I just knew probably wouldn't say no to me if I asked really nicely.
I just met with Carla this week. Small world.
Yes. She was our keynote last year. And and then this year it was like, okay, kind of used up all the people that I knew, but all of a sudden just through the conference and through other avenues and the networking pieces, names just started coming to me, and it was just like this
Mhm.
gut feeling. And you were actually the first person I even asked
Oh
to
yeah.
come do the conference this year, because I
Yeah.
just remember seeing you, and I had not met you in real life, like nothing or
Yeah.
anything like that. And I was like, he has to be there. Like, just
Oh,
a
awesome.
shot. So
Well, I'm
here we
glad.
are.
Yeah.
Podcasting.
Boost my ego for the night. Thanks. No, I'm just kidding. No, thank you though.
You're gonna leave and you're
Yeah.
gonna be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, once again, the conference is on September 9th at Calico Skies in Inwood, Iowa. We would be so happy to have anyone join us. We have people coming from as far away as Omaha and Minneapolis so far, when I've been tracking where the
That's
ticket sales are
incredible.
going on. So people are traveling upwards of 4 or more hours to come to this. So I'm like starting to, like it's setting in, it's getting real.
Yeah.
But
It's
yes,
real.
we want as many women there as we can, so that we can network away, because that's the main goal here, is to learn and grow as a collective group. So
Love it. Awesome.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Marissa.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, and until next time, we're going to be here cheering you on.
All right. Thanks.